Just had a report in from Gaz Williiams, who is a contributor to the Sonic State podcast, as well as Sonic Touch, our iPad and music show that we do sporadically. He's been working in Paris on a major opera production which has a lot of music technology involved. Over to you, Gaz.
Hi, Gaz Williiams here. I'm in Theatre Chatelet in Paris, and I'm here because I'm working on a production of Popeye, which is a modern reworking of the old Montiverdi opera, The Coronation of Popeye. Now this is an opera with quite a large difference because although the top lines are effectively the same as the original, all the accompaniment is by a very contemporary band, of which I'm playing bass in. Now there's loads of music tech going on in this show, and it's a six-piece band, and everybody in some way is using music technology in interesting ways. So let's go meet them. But first, let's just have a look at this beautiful theatre. Here's the setup now. We've got 6 musicians, we've got 2 drum kits, we've got 2 keyboard setups, and we've got guitar and bass. Let's go meet the keyboard players. Miss Angie Pollock, who's played with Goldfrapp and Peter Gabriel, amongst many other people. Can you tell us a little bit about what's going on here and what's interesting from a tech point of view?
If you sort of could bypass this gear and see all these notes, these are basically all the songs and recits. And Bill and me have worked out a plan of just like writing numbers so that when every song changes, because we have to load up so many sounds on the keyboard. I'm trying to keep all my recits on the top keyboard just to save confusion. And basically when there's wording happening, when they're chatting on stage with Ian's lovely words, we're trying to make noises in the background to give a sort of vibe. Mm-hmm. We're trying to occasionally manage to. So that's kind of the world here. Gaz has been incredibly helpful, and he sort of built this baby when Max and him spent time together, and Gaz worked out a plan of doing this.
Main stage is the software, which is effectively running the whole shebang with the keyboards. All of that is actually underneath the stage. We'll go there in a minute, but first, let's just go meet the second keyboard player, which is William D. Drake, formerly of the Cardiacs and a wonderful musician. So, in terms of the keyboards, so you've got a new keyboard that's arrived today.
Just
arrived
1 minute ago.
And this is
it's got my name on it. Well,
Novation 49
Novation.
SL.
Yes.
And we've got,
it's got a nice touch to it, actually. Very nice.
And you can see a very different technique from Angie with very, very few minimal notes.
Yes, I don't use them.
All the keyboards are just like dumb keyboards. They, effectively they're controller keyboards that are controlling main stage, which is, as I mentioned earlier, underneath the stage. Bill, how do you find it though, not being able to see the sounds and relying on the patch changes?
Fine.
Yeah.
Fine, because as long as the man underground knows what he's doing, it's Laurent, which he's getting very good at now. It's fine. It doesn't worry me at all.
The reason,
apart from when you have long notes you want to bring in between and things like that, and obviously, it'd be nice to have. I prefer to have the real sounds, but when we've got about 40 different bits of music.
Yeah, well, this is the thing.
For it to be done, really.
Yeah, in order to make the job easier, by having somebody who's actually looking after the sounds, they've got very specific cues, so they're putting all the patch changing in at very specific times. So I think, speaking of which, let's go meet him down in the pit. Well, here we are in the belly of the theatre, underneath the stage. And here's Lolo, who's our fantastic technician and who's really looking after all the sounds. Let's have a look at what's going on. Okay, so we've effectively got 2 main stage machines running. These laptops are...
Angie.
This is Angie's and this is Bill's.
And this is Bill.
Right, cool. We've got 3 identical setups here with Motu 896 HD Mark III racks with MIDI Express XTs, keeping all the MIDI together. Both laptops, there is actually a third machine which is somewhere under here, which is a Mac Pro, which is effectively running as a backup for both machines should there be a problem with either of them. Each main stage concert, as it's called, is split into 2 acts, and each act is kind of maxing out the RAM. There's 8 gigabytes of RAM in these, and it's like 500 gig SSD drives, and we're really pushing these machines, you know, and they're about as state of the art as it gets right now. So we've got here, so are you using these MIDI triggers?
Yeah, we use this one to change the programs.
The patches?
Yeah, patches for this one, and I've got another one for the Logic Pro.
Right, great.
And here, don't forget the main stage for this one.
Oh,
it's for both.
That's
we have a problem
the
with
backup
Angie
for
both. Or Bill.
Yeah, great. So we can see here, Lolo can see the stage. He's got videos where he can see what's going on, and he really has to sort of pay close attention to what's going on in order to get those patch changes in, because sometimes.
Yeah, you need to stay tight. Yeah,
very tight. So Pete Howard, who's the drummer but also is the musical director, he's doing all the cues. So this video here will be of Pete. So Lolo will watch Pete, give the cues, bang, here's the patch changes going in.
We have Angie and Bill.
So yes, so this is like a combined main stage of both together. So should anything go wrong, bang, we can get the backup running instantaneous. All the feeds from all 3 machines are all going into the desk. So theoretically, it should be instantaneous, really. Now, on stage, all the musicians, we don't have any on-stage monitoring. It's all in the ears. So communication is vitally important. So there's lots of... We've all got microphones, and we've got like a little foot pedal. We can talk to the foot pedal, and then we can have communication. The in-ear monitor systems that we're using are Weststones. These are the ES5s. Now there's 5 drivers and 3 crossovers in these. And these are custom fit. We've had our ears molded, and these things are absolutely remarkable. They're ruler flat in their response, and the sub response of them is just absolutely incredible. The problem I've got is that these are custom to my ears, so I just can't, no one else can hear them, so I can't show off to people how good they sound. So but it's an interesting thing, because we're all on these, everybody is on these monitors, so we have to be very, very, very aware, because they do attenuate the outside sound quite considerably. So once they're in, you know, the only thing we hear is what's being fed to them. So hence the need for communication. I'm using quite an interesting setup for the bass. I'm only using regular bass sounds on a few numbers, but in the most, a lot of the bass sounds are coming from the Roland GR55, which is a continuation of Roland's guitar synthesizer range. I've got that feeding into a TC electronic 450, which is an amplifier, but I'm just using it as a preamp because it's got a very good multiband compressor. And also this is the controller where I can mute and change amplifier patches. But the main work goes on with the Roland GR55. A lot of the bass sounds, as I say, are kind of like synth sounds. This allows me to kind of use kind of like analog modeling synthesizers, but also it lets me layer PCM tones, so I can bring in sort of samples from various kind of analog synths, just to sort of underpin the synth lines. On the basses, they have to be fitted with a special pickup that's called a GK3B, which is a special pickup which allows the unit to effectively turn the bass guitar into a MIDI trigger. And that's my setup. Now, let's meet one of the drummers, Chris McCormish.
Well, basically, I've got a TD9 brain, which is basically a TD9 kit here, with an SPD SX, which is a relatively new Roland product. This is basically a sampling brain that you can load samples onto, and there's been, well, I've worked on a few different types of sounds to load onto this for the actual opera. This is a great piece of kit for actually manipulating as well, because there's parts of the opera where I use certain effect functions, like this S-loop function, which is really, really good actually.
And that's like real-time manipulating.
Real-time manipulation, yeah.
The good thing with this, we found though, is it's got such a lot of sample memory. It's able to take the whole of both acts, all the samples, and
there's a lot of memory on this actually. It's really, really good. You can see if I flick through. I don't know if you can see that. I've got my patches named with tracks. Now the great thing about this actually is that it comes with software management package which you put onto your laptop, and I was using that with my MacBook to plug in USB and to load on the tracks. Now then you can actually save a backup onto your computer, which is really, really handy because in case something happens, which it's never had a glitch, which is great. And then I can actually change the patches and name them, set them out, lay them out, same sort of thing.
How do you find the loading time between patches?
The loading time you can actually see here. I know we don't have any sound at the moment, but I mean, whenever I'm changing, it's instantaneous, which is great, and because we're moving between scenes very, very quickly. I mean, my sort of patch notes here are quite complicated, but it's, well, not complicated, but I've got two brains that I'm working, so I'm moving between different patches. Now this is great because this is my essentially drum kits that I use for several different songs. I have the break one, which is great for the sort of hip hop type stuff, and then this for the samples that are very essential to the different types of sounds that I have to trigger for the opera.
The V drums in Pete's case is trying to replicate the acoustic drum kind of situation, whereas Chris really is dealing very much more with the electronic side of things. So let's go over and have a look at Pete's setup. Okay, so here we have Pete Howard, who's the MD of the whole show. Pete played in The Clash and Queen Adreena, amongst other bands. Pete.
Yep.
You're a regular acoustic player, so not really used electronic drums.
I think these kits are quite flattering in some senses because they seem to sort of pick up grace notes that you may miss if you don't have the full dynamic range. But I think they're certainly brilliant for the job. They do a really good job.
We discovered using this is the TD20X, which is the drum kit brain for this kit, and we discovered that getting the triggering right really improved the responses.
There seems to be an infinite variety of kind of. Well, not infinite variety of effects, but there's an infinite variety of sort of velocities and responses and sensitivity and stuff like that. So it does actually kind of, if you're really, really clever with it, which I'm not, you can get it to feel and respond very, very like a real drum kit. I mean, obviously it isn't, but it's as near as you're going to get at the moment, I think. But it's great because you've got 100 kits at least on there, and you can combine them and change them and tune them and muffle them and do anything you need to, which is fascinating. And there's obviously a lot of work gone into this brain and the drum kit itself. And this one looks great. It looks really cool.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Almost looks like a real drum kit.
There's video monitors on Pete, and those so various counts can then be seen by people who are in the wings of the stage. Yeah.
Well, I mean some of the choir came up to me yesterday and said, can you make sure that you conduct us? And I've never conducted anything in my life. But no, that's fine. It just means that I can just sit here like this and do that. And the choir who are off stage will see me doing that and then know when to come in or stop singing or whatever.
And it works for downstairs too?
Yes, they can see me under the stage, that the people who are changing the sounds for the keyboards, etc. But also they can see me counting songs in, or they can see me sort of ending things, or yet again they can see me doing some kind of rudimentary conducting, which is interesting. But so it's a way of everyone knowing what's going on with the band and the music.
Let's go meet Max Levere, who's a guitarist in this project. Max is a guitarist, but is also it's been involved very heavily in the orchestration for this whole project as well, which has involved a computer-based project, really, using many software synthesizers.
Yeah, we kind of had to, because the hardware stuff that we had, we just don't have a lot of space, and it practically just wouldn't work. There was old stuff from the 80s, and we didn't have the time with 45 songs quickly to redial in all the settings, so the STs it was.
Yeah.
We wanted things to sound like they didn't come from any given time period. So we tried to use things that people didn't really use. A lot of old 80s stuff came into play, and using things like bass sounds and things like that, 5 octaves up and stuff like that, just so they'd trigger weirdly. We used a lot of old samplers, which made things sound a bit out of tune, and that was really important because that kind of gave things this weird quality. So,
because the storyline does have, everybody's pretty horrible in the story, really, isn't it? So having sounds which appear sweet but have kind of got quite a nasty sort of element to them is looking for things like that in the sounds. And so, in terms of your guitar setup, can you just talk us through what you're using?
Old hippie stuff, old 1970s, really old 1970s stuff. Mostly these two things, and that thing being the main offender. Again, just really the idea. Being that it winds up being a problem, deliberately incorporating a problem so that you have to sort of fight it, because it's kind of exciting for people to watch you not yawning going, I've got this totally covered. Preset number 5. Right. But there's no way for me to get the same sound every night. Yeah. I've got to do this stuff in the dark, trying to get the dial somewhere in the same thing, and it never happens the right way. This thing, the feedback will blow the PA system if it starts going the wrong way.
Okay, so Popeye is going to be running from 29th of May through to the 7th of June in Theatre Chatelet in Paris, and it's a wonderful show. It stars Mark Ullman and Carl Barrett and Benjamin Biolay, Frederica Stahl, Anna Madison, and is a completely unique production. So come and see it.